Hi everyone, Dr. Lindstedt here, just wrapping up our last week of Lifestyle Medicine 101. We're so happy that you've joined us through the last 8 weeks, and we hope that you'll find that this session was beneficial for your everyday life and for those you care for, whether it be family members, friends, or even patients in our healthcare system that you're able to help out with the information that you've gained. So today's session is really meant to just be an overview of what we've talked about and then to address some specific questions. And so at the very end, I'll talk about some things that we're doing here at NCFM related to lifestyle medicine in case you're interested in learning more. But we wanted to start by thanking you so much for participating in this group program, and hopefully you found some support with each other along the way. I know some of you are doing this through work with your colleagues. If you have any comments or feedback for us, please feel free to send those to either directly to me or our NCFM Lifestyle Medicine email address. Or you could also go to the quick link for submitting a question, and we'll see any comments there. Thank you to everyone who has submitted comments so far. They're super helpful, so we know how we can better this program moving forward. So any feedback you have would be greatly appreciated. So for the program, I'm going to do a little overview of what we talked about, and then I'll do a few pearls from each week with some questions that have been submitted. So the first one we talked about, we dove into nutrition, and this is probably one that people have the most questions about, but really the Power of Plants lecture by Alexandra Lessem went over the importance of increasing the plant intake in our diet. And when we went through that, she highlighted some of the health benefits that people have seen by increasing plant intake. And when you do that, you usually are decreasing something that's not plant. And so one question that came up is, do I need to be vegan, so no animal products at all, in order to get these health benefits? And the answer is no. The health benefits are seen dramatically just by increasing the plant intake in our diet. And so to start, we would encourage you to choose one way that you want to increase vegetables in your diet. Focus on what you're adding to your diet, because ultimately you'll need to take something out to put these new things in. And so starting with just increasing the quality of plant foods you're having in your diet. And as you start to learn more about cooking with different plant products, you might realize that some days you don't really need meat or animal products. The goal would be to decrease the amount of animal products we're consuming, but by no means do you need to eliminate it completely. So if you have additional questions about that, you can forward that on to us, and we would be happy to answer them. Alexandra and I was a dietitian before I went to medical school, and Alexandra and I are both certified lifestyle medicine physicians and nurse practitioner. So we'd be happy to try to answer that question for you if you have more specific questions around increasing the plant intake in your diet. The next section that had questions that we went over was exercise. So Cindy Dallow did a great talk on how exercise can be helpful for health, not just weight loss. And a lot of people think of exercise as something we do just to lose weight. And so hopefully you found it helpful to see that really the benefits of exercise can be seen regardless of changes in your weight. And so we really want to take the time to figure out how we can incorporate movement into our daily lives. And so the one question was, how do I increase my physical activity when I don't have a lot of time? And so the best way to do that is to break it into sections of time. And so if your goal is to just have the health benefits of exercise, you don't need to be doing 45 minutes straight of exercise if you don't have time for that. So you could just break it into 3 10-minute sections to get your 30 minutes a day, or 2 15-minute sections. So some people get confused because they think, well, I'm not really doing much, right? Within 10 or 15 minutes, that's not enough to see any benefits. And they've done studies, and as long as you're getting the total amount for the day, you are receiving health benefits. Now, if your goal is more on endurance or a specific sport or activity, then that's a different case. And so you may be thinking of people who are trying to increase their endurance to do a 5K. Well, in that situation, you could start by breaking it into small chunks, but in order to complete a 5K, there's a very good chance you'll need to figure out how to do this in a sustained, continuous fashion instead of broken up into chunks throughout the day. So when you're just getting started, don't worry about trying to do everything all at once. Instead, focus more on how you're able to just get the amount of time in during the day and then go from there. The next section I wanted to highlight was the stress talk that we did with Bethany Wiley. And so she had some awesome examples of actual tangible things you could try doing in your daily lives, and went through those examples. And so I hope you all found that session super helpful. I know I have been in situations where the 4-7-8 breathing has come in handy quite a bit. And so I hope that you found some of the activities that she highlighted useful. The question that came up related to stress was, how do I know the difference between good stress and bad stress? So when we think about stress, we can have a mix of both related to one event. So if we're thinking about stress, we want to think of what is the purpose of the stress. Does this seem like something that is getting me to a goal that I desire? Or does this just seem like my life feels overwhelming and chaotic and I can't get a grasp on anything? So an example could be going to graduate school or finishing college or some educational focused stressor. So in general, that educational stressor is probably more of a good stress because we know we have to put this effort in up front, and there will be some stressful moments that get us to the end. However, sometimes we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves, and that causes what we would call bad stress. So we might be pressuring ourselves to do things in a certain time frame that are unrealistic, or take on tasks that are more than what we're capable of doing. And that could cause some bad stress in our lives. So it could be really hard sometimes to parse out the differences. And this is why a counselor or a coach might be helpful in figuring out which things in your lives are benefiting you, so the stressors that you'd call good stressors, and which ones maybe we need to figure out how to lessen our lives or get rid of altogether. And that kind of plays on something I wanted to touch on, which was acute and chronic stress. And so acute stress is, like you're studying for a big exam or you have a certification or something that's important in your educational journey that's coming up due, and it feels stressful in that moment. Acute stress would be something that has a deadline, and afterwards it will be passing. So you won't be having this stress forever. You sort of have a set time period where you can expect to feel more stressed than baseline. Chronic stress would be more in the situation of a stressor that just doesn't go away, and it continues to feel stressful in your life, and you can tell that it's preventing you from living to your fullest. So it kind of goes along with good and bad stress, but just something to keep in mind if you feel like you're having chronic stress. Bethany highlighted some of the adverse outcomes associated with that, and meeting with someone to help manage and mitigate that stress would be very helpful. The next one to chat about was sleep. And so Monica Foster went over the benefits of having a healthy sleep routine, the importance related to our health, and how it's one of those things that we take for granted often. We think, oh, well, it's just something we do, it's something we have to do. It feels like a chore. There might be times when we cut it out because we are trying to fit more into our day. But it's really the most important part of our day because it's when all of our memories and experiences from the day are processed and set the stage for the rest of our lives. And so I thought that she did a great job of highlighting that. One question that came up was, what do we do if we're shift workers? So again, this email series or video series has gone out to Banner, my Banner gear, many Banner employees, and there are many of us, myself included, who sometimes do night shift work, some more regularly than others. And how do we keep a healthy sleep schedule when we're flipping between day and night? And so this is not an easy question to answer because life happens typically during the day. And in a perfect world, we would never flip our sleep schedule. We would always allow our circadian rhythm to coincide with our work schedule, and it would just stay the same all the time. But that's obviously not realistic. And so if you're working night shift work regularly, trying to find a way that you can gracefully switch between one to the other that's a routine for you can be very helpful. So this could be your 3 shifts where you're on at night. You sleep during the day, and you make sure you sleep during the day. You don't use that as extra time to get more done. You sleep during the day, and then the next day you maybe sleep half the day and you go to bed a little earlier, but you still stay up later than the average person would. So instead of your shift, your awake hours being from 5 p.m. until 7 a.m., sleeping 7 to 3 or something like that. Sorry that the time didn't work out. I'm doing this on my head. So let's say you sleep from 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. So instead of having that be your schedule when you're off, you would shift that slightly. So you might still stay up until midnight, 2 a.m. And sleep later in the day. So maybe you would stay up till 2 a.m. and sleep until 10 a.m. the next day. So you're still not on like a quote unquote standard sleep schedule, but you're closer to your altered schedule than a standard sleep schedule. So hopefully that makes sense. But what you want to try to do is not completely flip, like you don't want to be getting up at 5 a.m. 2 days after your night shift because you're going to feel groggy and confused, or your nights are going to feel groggy and confused. So what you want to try to do is find this balance where your days off are as close to a normal schedule as you can tolerate, but are also somewhat close to your night shift schedule so that you're able to more smoothly transition back and forth. I know some people who work night shift and they pretty much just keep their schedule. They'll stay up until 3 in the morning instead of going to bed at 7 or 8 a.m. They go to bed at 3. So it's not identical, but they have noticed that they still have a large chunk of the day when they're awake with other people around, and they're just able to function so much better. And so trying to find what works best for you is key. And using melatonin can really help with this. And so you can talk to your provider to see if melatonin is safe for you. It's generally pretty safe for most people. And see what version of it might be helpful. There is extended release melatonin because melatonin helps you fall asleep. So if your trouble is staying asleep, sometimes the extended release can be more helpful, but always check with your provider before starting any medicines or supplements. Hopefully I didn't totally lose you on that one. All right. The next one was compassion. And so Diana, who is no longer a counselor with Banner, but was when we recorded that video, gave a very beautiful presentation about the importance of self-compassion and how to foster a compassionate relationship with ourselves. And it's one of those things that is talked about a lot, but it can be very hard to implement. And so one of the questions that came up is, am I being too soft on myself if I practice self-compassion? And I find this question comes up a lot because many of us were raised with the mentality that we need to be hard on ourselves and push ourselves in order to succeed and to thrive. But the trouble is if you're always pushing yourself, we all get to this place where we just feel defeated or exhausted because everyone makes mistakes. That's just what happens. No one is perfect. And when we always take the side of, it is what it is, we need to have a firm line that if we don't succeed to our own standard, that we're doing something wrong to push ourselves. If we do that, then we get exhausted, and we often get to a point where we feel like we can't even try hard things because we're worried about failing. And so self-compassion actually goes along with what's called a growth mindset. So this idea that every experience is a learning experience, and what we take from it is what's most important, not necessarily if we win or lose. And so you could think of this as, let's say you have an ideal dream job that you want, and you apply for this promotion and you don't get it, and it's very defeating. So if that happens to someone and they have a fixed mindset, they can feel frustrated. They can either think, the system is out to get me and it's not my fault, like the system is broken and I need to switch jobs, and they'll find a different company. Or they may think, something's wrong with me, like I'm no good at this, and I just need to, I did something wrong and I'm horrible and I should just stop trying. I should just stay where I am and stay put. And so a growth mindset would look at that and say, this was a great opportunity. I learned about interviewing in this position that I've never done before. I learned things about myself and also what that job entails that I didn't know. And now I can take that and see what I actually want to do with my career. Maybe I do want that position and I'll try again later. Or maybe it opened my eyes and I actually found something else that's more meaningful in my life. And so trying to look at a situation and think, how can I grow from this? And that goes along with self-compassion, because you can imagine if you were to apply for a job that you thought you really wanted and not get it, you could beat yourself up. But taking the approach of self-compassion would be a totally different flip. It would be like you're best friends with yourself, and you would treat yourself as if how you would treat a best friend or a family member. And you would do the same things I'm saying right now around this growth mindset. It's a learning opportunity. There are other benefits that are gained from it, and there will be more opportunities in the future. So hopefully you found that self-compassion video helpful, and you'll go back and listen to it, especially in situations that might be challenging in your life. And then the last topic we talked about was substance use and avoiding risky substance use. And so Christy Barron did a great job of going over some of the more common substances that we hear about or see in our daily lives, and how the prevalence is so high. And often the use of these things can be very normalized. And so we want to just be sure that we're evaluating our use. And the bigger point is why we're using it. So sometimes people start using things just because they don't really know the insight into why. They just start using them. Their friends are using them and they just are curious. Other times people start using things because they have some negative feeling that they would rather not feel. And this thing helps them address that feeling. So there are many substances people use, not even the things that we discussed, but other types of coping that people have, food, gambling, spending or shopping, all kinds of habits and hobbies people have that attempt to carry out the same thing, the same purpose as some of these substances. And it can be around numbing and coping with negative emotions. And so Christy provided some great insight into how we can begin thinking about why we use these things, what they mean in our lives, and what we can start doing to bring more awareness to them, because sometimes once we're aware of them, we realize we actually don't want to use them. We realize that drink actually didn't help me forget about my day and actually just made me ruminate on it. And that brief moment of awareness is what can be the difference between having another drink or deciding you're going to do something more productive that's going to help deal with the underlying cause. So definitely check out her putting it into action video as well as the substance use video. And to piggyback on that, if you were watching the substance use videos or attempting to watch them on a Banner computer, you may have seen they were blocked. And I believe that's because they talk about drugs and alcohol. And so just make sure you watch those on your own personal device if the Banner firewall happened to be blocking it for you. So those were all the questions that we had for each category. We are hoping to do more of these sessions, the Lifestyle Medicine 101, and maybe even some higher level diving deeper into lifestyle medicine sessions in the future. Again, if you have any comments or questions, please send them our way so we can try to implement them into future programs. And I also wanted to mention that if you're local to Northern Colorado, here at North Colorado Family Medicine, Alexandra Lessem and I both are certified lifestyle medicine providers, and we see patients individually, so one-on-one, and we also have a group program. We have a summer one that actually it's slotted to start next week. We might have to push the date back another week, but as of now, it's slotted for June 1st, and it's a 11-week program. We meet 6 times, so every other week, in the mornings, on Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. For about an hour and a half to go through content related to lifestyle medicine. And it's a great opportunity to meet individuals on the same journey and form collaboration and community with others. There's a ton of information that we provide, and so these videos you've just watched are a great jumpstart into the group program, but we dive deeper into each of the pillars and do some more work around barriers to change and preventing relapse and that type of thing with goal setting and stuff. So if you're interested, that program is open to anyone who's a Banner patient, Banner Health patient. You don't need to belong to our clinic, but you do need to be an established patient within Banner. If you don't have a primary care provider, we're always accepting new patients at North Colorado Family Medicine. So you could definitely give us a call. Our number is 970-810-2424. And you can set up an appointment to establish care, and then you'd be eligible to participate in any of our group programs. So feel free to email me if you have any questions at all. I hope you found this last 8 weeks to be powerful and motivating, and hopefully just empowering is the word I was looking for, empowering to make behavior change that's lasting and meaningful in your life. All right, so take care, be well. Let us know if there's anything we can ever do for you. Bye-bye.